This is a year where we've learned a new level of appreciation for the wonders of the National Health Service. We've been outside to applaud doctors, nurses and healthcare workers for their amazing work in the fight against COVID-19. I'm here at the home of Dave Emmett, our Pastoral Ministry Coordinator, to find out about a very different picture of healthcare provision, as we find out more about the healthcare services available in the Democratic Republic of Congo. When were you and Philippa in the Congo then?
So I was in the Congo 81 to 91 and Philippa 82 to 91. She worked in a different part of the Congo. She worked with the Baptist Missionary Society at first, but we met up and worked together in a little village called Kipushya, right in the middle of Congo for many years.
Great. And what led you and then Philippa out to the Congo?
I think for both of us it was just nothing other really than a sense of the call of God on our lives to go and do something. She worked originally with the Baptist Missionary Society. I worked with the Pentecostal Church. Both of us were in education and helping the Congolese churches train teachers for their secondary schools.
Now the Harvest Project we're working with is a village called Kipushya. Just tell us a little bit about that village and some of the origins of the Christian work there.
Well, it goes back to the slave trade, and there was a man called Shalombo who became a slave trader, liaised with the Portuguese. Very wicked, awful things he did. Ended up in Angola. With the Portuguese slave traders, but his wife became a Christian. He beat her up. He didn't want her to know about Christ. He then became a Christian and felt a burden to return to his native village so that he could share the gospel there. He did that, and that became a centre. He was the first man to take the gospel into that whole region, and so that's why the village of Kipushya became a centre for the Pentecostal church in the end, in that region.
Fantastic. And that's the area that you and then Philippa were working in. Can you just tell us a little bit about it?
So Kipushya, if you were to take the horizontal line and the vertical line of Africa and where they intersect, you'd probably come to Kipushya. It's right bang in the very, very middle of Africa. It's in the Midlands of the Democratic Republic of Congo. It's a smallish village. It's grown and grown. You'd call it probably a very small town now. But it became the headquarters for the Pentecostal church. When I was there, they had 1,000 churches in an area of the size of the UK. It's a big area, Congo. It's the size of Western Europe, but Kipushya is right in the middle of it.
And the work that we're trying to sponsor through our Harvest Appeal is based around a medical centre, and you've got a particular link with Dr. Beston, who's the doctor there.
Yeah, Beston went to the school that I was head teacher of for several years, and Philippa also taught maths in that school. And I've kept in touch with many of my former students, and Beston he went on to train to be a doctor in Kisangani, a big city further out in Congo. And he's returned. There wasn't a doctor in that, all the time I was there, there never was a doctor at Kipushya. There was a midwife and they had a maternity ward. But he's been there for 4 years now and he's also attracted another 3 younger doctors to come and serve the region. And that's just wonderful news really for the whole area.
And just describe the hospital to us as it currently exists.
So it's got several buildings. There's an operating theatre, an operating ward. They do carry out operations already. they would love to upgrade it, and it's very run down. It's had a lack of investment over many years. The money comes completely from the church, from church members. There is little, next to nothing that comes from the government. So they have to finance it themselves. But it serves an area of around about 40,000 people. They have different health zones. When I was there, the neighbouring health zone had no doctor either, so you'd end up with 80,000 people coming to a maternity ward. What they're doing is absolutely brilliant, and serving a whole area and carrying out operations, primary health care as well, carried out through that hospital.
You, myself and Philippa ran a collective marathon to fundraise to get a generator for the hospital. We're hoping to raise additional funds. Just give us an idea of what those funds are going to be spent on.
So, I mean, the main thing is, I mean, we started off aiming to get a small generator, but we were just overwhelmed by the generosity that came in through the sponsorship, and we've been able to buy a large generator, which should last a much longer time and service more than just one room, one building in the hospital buildings at Kipushya. That is going to make such a massive difference to people's lives. For example, ultrasounds, which we take for granted in, pregnant women will go and have an ultrasound and a scan and see what's happening. They've got the equipment, they haven't got the power to run it. Just the operating theatre, to have proper lights coming in rather than paraffin lights when they're doing operations, massive difference. I mean, the fact is that generator will save so many lives in that whole area.
Now, you've told me a story about a young lad whose life was transformed by the medical services in Kipushya. Can you just tell us that story?
Well, when I first arrived in Congo, I was 23-year-old, I went walking around the edge of the village once and came across this young lad with a cleft tooth, and he had his parents had called him Bulembi, which in the local language means poison, and he was very withdrawn, isolated, and for me, I just felt something could be done for him. And so in the end was able to find a missionary plane that was able to take him to a hospital that was an hour and a half flying time away, where a plastic surgeon was visiting from America, just doing 3 months, and was doing different operations. I will never forget the day Bulembi came back and knocked on the front door, and I didn't recognise him at first because they'd made such a fantastic job. Honestly, his life was completely changed. From being the boy who was people threw stones at, called him names, he became far more integrated into society, into the population. When I went in 2014 to visit a nearby town, 90 miles away, he actually walked on foot and came to see me just to tell me how he was doing. His life had been changed. He's got married, 2 sets of twins, sings in the choir, completely changed through medical intervention. And for me, it just showed what a difference just a medical procedure can make on somebody's life.
As we've heard from Dave and the story of Bulembi, the medical intervention in this hospital in Kipushya makes a huge difference in people's lives. It literally transforms their lives. As part of our Harvester Appeal, we're hoping to raise £10,000 to support the rebuilding of the hospital in Kipushya. We're hoping to provide extra resources for Dr. Beston and for his 3 colleagues. Your contributions will make a huge difference to the lives of people in one of the poorest parts of our world.